Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. All right, folks, I'm back again with another Dante Trudel blog post. I was going to leave well enough alone, but this one's too good not to talk about. I had the video up last week about Dante's thoughts on progressive overload training. He wanted to share something. And I think there was some negative comments. People didn't quite understand what he was saying or were just being contrarian. And this is Dante's rebuttal to some of those posts where he goes in and explains what he means by progressive overload and how progressive overload works. And he talks about dummy bodybuilders. I laughed the entire time I read this one. This one's really good, but I'm going to dig into it and I'm going to talk about my thoughts on this in just 1 second. All right, the title of the blog is Thinking Outside of the Box. I will be the very first to admit I get very impatient and ultra frustrated with some of the current crew of bodybuilders and their total inability to think outside of this tiny little box they are in. Some of them, and I'll just say it, are straight out dummies and are severely limited in their way of thinking. Like severely, to the point I wonder how they ever solve any kind of problem whatsoever put in front of them. I've seen some comments regarding my methodology, especially over the last couple days on other social media regarding my latest post. And I am just in disbelief staring at my computer screen at the times thinking, are you seriously that dumb? This isn't hard, so forgive me. I'm usually pretty optimistic, upbeat guy who likes to joke around. But I have to take these cats to task on their incredible inability to comprehend simple concepts that are so completely obvious, like no wonder some of these guys are on a hamster wheel going nowhere fast when it comes to forging ahead to the next level in their bodybuilding journey. Some of you cannot get out of your own way. I'm sorry to laugh, guys, but this this sums up half my conversations with people. I just don't bother arguing anymore. Half the time it's just not even worth it. I've given up on arguing with people about stuff. But all right, so he goes on. Dummy bodybuilder number 1, who is so limited in his thinking. Talking about the progressive training post, and I quote, great way to destroy every ligament and tendon in your body. I think that was a post on one of my videos. Or my video. My reply, a very simple question for you. You, the person right now reading this, tell me what rep range would you like to train in for every exercise or body part that you personally feel you will not get injured in. Hypothetical answer from dummy bodybuilder number 1. Dante, I don't think I would get injured if I did 14 to 22 reps for seated dumbbell curls. My reply, then I would suggest you just do that and train in a 14 to 22 rep range for seated dumbbell curls and train progressively in that range. Damn, did you see how easy that was? Don't you feel kind of dumb now? You should. Now, I want you to take every exercise / body part and I want you to determine what rep range you want to train in with these exercises and body parts that you personally feel you can do safely, so as not to get hurt. 8 to 16 reps, 12 to 20 reps, 20 to 30 reps. Okay, got it down? Now train progressively in that range. Wow, see how easy that is? And you can just pause for a second and think about it before talking and posting and kind of looking like an idiot. Heavy training and progressive training is not owned by the 1 to 5 rep club. It never has been. Heavy training and progressive training is in any rep range you deem feasible for your unique structure, injuries, strength level, and personal safety and comfort zone. Who said you have to be below 6 reps? Nobody did. Science has actually shown that you can promote hypertrophy in a muscle in a myriad of rep ranges. That is true. New science has shown that I think it's pretty much anywhere from sort of 6 up to 30 reps, depending on the body part, that you can promote hypertrophy. I don't train super heavy anymore. Of course, what I consider non-heavy is probably heavy to most people. And we do, even though I'm not training super heavy anymore, I do still train with progressive overload. And I train with volume. I progress my volume and then I progress my load. So those are two ways I modulate progression. So I will push volume up. There's only so far you can take volume. And there's, with the load, so I'll push the load up as well. And we'll take a machine, my training partner and I will take a machine. We'll master that machine. We'll max that machine out. I don't really use much as far as barbells anymore. It's just machines and dumbbells for me, but I'll master that exercise until I feel like I'm not getting anything out of it, or I just cap out what the damn thing will hold. And then we move on to something else. I'll give you an example. Shoulder presses. We were using the Hammer Strength shoulder press machine. I can no longer use that machine because we are using the entire weight stack on it now and doing 15 to 20 reps in it. And I usually train in the 12 to 15 rep range. So I feel like I have thoroughly exhausted that machine. And we moved on to a different one. We are now using the Atlantis plate load machine for our shoulder presses. So we have progressed, even though I use volume. I get my clients all the time reach out to me, do I increase the weights? Yes, you increase the weights. Yes, you increase the weights. It's now that's within the constraints of good form. Okay. let's go on here. If you get hurt in training, sometimes it's bad luck. We are, after all, doing repetitive movements with multiple pounds of iron over many, many years, which creates repetitive trauma. But a lot of the time, if you get hurt in training, it's your own damn fault. And it also can be traced to something you did wrong. If you have blown out knees, nobody told you to bounce off the bottom position of hacks or squats for the sake of the weight used. You did that. If you've blown out your shoulders, maybe you should have kept the rep range higher and trained with a really tight form instead of so loosely. Progressive training builds muscle mass whether you use ultra strict form or ballistic choppy movements. The problem is when you're training ballistically, most bodybuilders who train that way end up with a multitude of injuries. I look around at the gym and I see people with awful form and quickly foresee a really dark future on their joint integrity down the road. Look around at some of the retired over 40 pro bodybuilders are all torn up, and a lot of them were really sloppy with their form in their training. Like I said, lifting heavy in progressively builds muscle. Regardless of form, when you see bodybuilders doing things like tearing lats and at the top of pull downs and rebounding the weight from stretch position and other forms of ballistic training, nobody told them to train that way. They chose to train that way. Yeah, I mean, most of the injuries I see are, well, some of them are wear and tear, but most of them I see is just from poor movement patterns. And a lot of the guys that do get hurt are the ones that have shitty form. I don't want to point out any pro bodybuilders, you know who I'm talking about, but you've seen the guys that train with shitty form or got too crazy with it, or maybe when they got bigger, they should have used lighter weights and progressed those weights. Or got to a point where they should have maintained or yada yada, periodized their training, however you want to talk about it. But that's usually when people get tore up. All right, moving on here. My opinion, form is standard. Progression is the goal. You never sacrifice form in the advancement of poundage, ever. You either do the movement in a good form or the movement, your form gets dangerous. The set ends. Write it in the logbook. That's what I've talked about before. I don't remember if it was Dante that told me this, that slinging and bouncing the weights doesn't mean you got stronger or you progressed. It just means you got better at cheating. I think he said that to me at some point. Somebody told me that at some point. It's not my saying, so I don't want to take credit for it. But yeah, that's always the thing I see, that you didn't get stronger, you didn't get bigger, you just got better at cheating. Strict form does matter. You'll get people that argue that it doesn't. I disagree completely. It's usually how people end up getting hurt. That's the key to longevity in this endeavor. Myself, I will be 58 in a few months. I used to grind out 69 reps in my young buck days. I moved up to the 9 to 13 reps until the age of 34. Then I moved up again after the 34 years of age to the 9 to 20 reps. At 42 years old, I began the rep ranges around 12 to 15 reps. Maybe 8 to 12, throwing in some movements I felt safe in. Now in my 50s, I train pretty much in the 12 to 30 rep range. Some stuff in the 16 to 30s. It has always been progressive, always. For some reason, people think 12 to 30 reps are light. I grind things out in that rep range so heavy that young cats in my gym can't even approach. I just keep in that rep range for potential risk factor. I'm not willing to risk a tricep tendon tear or patella tendon tear by grinding out 5 to 8s at this point in my life. It's not throwing in the towel at all. A 20 rep squat or a 30 rep leg press with a boatload of weight that you've never accomplished before builds muscle mass. A reverse grip incline bench press for 16 to 20 reps that you have never done before builds muscle mass. A 16 to 20 rep machine shoulder press at a weight that you've never accomplished before builds muscle mass. I do it just like I did when I used to grind out lower reps in my 20s. I wrap my elbows with the Inzer knee wraps. I slaughter my logbooks last week's stats just to grind. There is a simple mentality I have. You can take chances in your 20s and early 30s that you cannot take in your 40s and 50s via joint integrity. Jump off a 6-foot wall at 24 and you're off and running. Do that at 44 and you take a good chance of blowing out both your patella tendons. It is what it is. Yeah, I tell guys this all the time. Like I get guys come to me that try to use, do like heavy compound movements. Like I don't squat, I don't deadlift anymore. And I'm not saying that, that's the way to go. I don't use barbell bench presses. I mostly stick with machines and dumbbells now because I feel safer with those. And I'm still progressing. You guys have seen my pictures. I'm the biggest I've ever been. And I'm almost 50 years old. I still progress my weights, even though I am using a higher volume training. But my form's stricter. I use things that don't hurt. That's the primary thing for me. Like if I feel something is hurting a joint, I don't use that movement. I use something else. If I feel pain in that joint, I'll move on and use something else. And this is a point I make to my clients all the time. Training like you did when you're 21 is like playing a backyard football game when you're 50 years old. Why would you would not go out and play a backyard tackle football game at 50 years old and then go out and get hammered on a bottle of tequila that night and expect to get up the next day and function. I don't know why people feel like they can do that when they're getting older. So you do have to adjust your training to fit your age, to fit the mile, how many miles you've got on the motor. All right, let's go on. I do think it's very beneficial while you're in the 20s to grind out some 5 to 9s while your joints are indestructible. It builds a power base that allows things to adjust very easily when it's time to move on to upper rep ranges. That's something I think about sometimes myself. I trained really heavy when I was in my 20s. And maybe that's what my physique has benefited from now. I don't really train that heavy anymore. I did the heavy barbell squats. I did the heavy barbell incline bench presses. I did the heavy deadlifts when I was younger. And I did train in that 5 to 9 rep range. Dante trained me. I was a younger guy then. So, late 20s, I think I was when I worked with him. And I had been training heavy before then as well. You know what's great about heavy weights and high reps? It gives you a lot of room to beat the logbook. Much easier to beat a rest pause set of 20 to 30 reps than it is to beat a 9 to 13 rest pause set. Both build muscle. You guys have seen my Instagram posts. I'm changing weights on machines in the gym and plating plates to the apparatus. If it ain't light, I'm doing it for 12 to 20, sometimes 30 reps. I digress. Um, and I talk about holding reps back sometimes. For me, like, my guys ask me about reps in reserve. I'm like, how do you gauge reps in reserve? Um, I train to a point where I feel like mechanical form is breaking down. I define it as mechanical failure. I think this is where people get confused. And I am always trying to advance my weights. I log my workouts. I haven't been recently because I'm on cruise. I'm not really trying to advance weights right now. I'm just taking a break and let my body heal up from some injuries. But when I get ready for my next push, I will definitely track things, and we will try to progress weights and progress volume to a certain degree. Okay, so he goes on. I digress. Dummy bodybuilder number 2, who is limited in his thinking. This guy right here might be one of the dumbest people I've ever come across in bodybuilding. Uh, Yet he's out there in many forms on Instagram, on YouTube, and forums. Do you know this? What this guy always says? There's a limit to how strong you can get. It's not like you can bench press 1,000 pounds for reps, and everyone has a limit of how strong you can get. You just don't continue forever piling the plates on. I want to comment on this. I so want to comment on this, I could probably go on for the next 30 minutes about it. Where do I start? My reply. Okay, dummy bodybuilder number 2. Let me ask you a question like I asked the other guy. So dummy bodybuilder number 2. Let's use chest for a hypothetical point of view. You're telling me that you have maxed out your weight for 12 to 20 reps on 10% inclines, and also 20% inclines, and also 30% inclines, and 40% inclines, and 50% inclines, and 60% inclines, and 70% inclines. You have maxed out the weight for 12 to 20 reps on all 4 hammer machines and both 2 arms, also unilaterally. You have maxed out the weight on all various angles of the dumbbell presses for a 2 to 5 second pause at the bottom with a loaded stretch. You've maxed out the weight for 12 to 30 reps in every chest machine in your gym, and you've in every chest machine that's found in the local 3 gyms. What did I just give you? About 30 to 35 exercises for chest. And you were telling me that you've maxed out every single one in weight in the 12 to 20 rep range. No, you're a bullshit artist, because if you did actually accomplish that on chest and every other body part, you would be the most massive bodybuilder your unique genetics would allow you to be. So when you're limited, can't get out of your own way thinking, you are full of crap. So I back up again. I just said it earlier. My partner and I, sorry, my dog's whining back here. My partner and I, we sub out, when we get to the point where we just can't progress the machine anymore, we sub it out. You know, like I said, I maxed out the hammer strength shoulder press machine. It's like there's nothing I can do with it. Then we moved on to the, I forget the other brand. There was a Life Fitness or something. I don't remember what it was, but another shoulder press machine. We maxed that one out. I'm ripping 15, 20 reps on that one. So now we're moving on to the new Atlantis plate load machine for shoulder presses. That's what we're doing now. You know, and then I like I said, I used to train in the 6 to 10 rep range. Now I do all my compounds in the 12 to 15 or 10 to 12 rep range, sorry. And then my secondary movements, what I would call isolations, more in the 12 to 20 rep range. So that's where I'm at right now. All right, let's go on here. Your job as a bodybuilder is to put yourself in successful mechanical positions over and over to strength plateaus, and at a point, and at that point, do 1 of 3 things. 1, go to a new exercise and go up to a new strength plateau with that one. 2, reset the current exercise you are on by starting with high reps again and going up in the weight and down in reps over the many weeks and months. And then try to go up past the last strength pass plateau. Or 3, tweaking the current exercise somehow so it's a little bit different this time around. It sounds like dummy bodybuilder number 2 is so limited in cognitive ability that he thinks you have to do 35-degree incline barbell presses on the first day till the last day of your bodybuilding career and every day in between. I'm sorry, but that is a complete idiot, and you will not progress that way. I've done this for a long time now, and then I've used 12 to 30 alternative exercises for virtually every body part that I can pull out at any time and reach a strength plateau. When you go back to that original exercise you replaced it with somewhere in the future, you'll find it by the time you go up in strength plateau again on it, you will be past your previous strength plateau. That's called progress. I reset exercises all the time, especially ones I love doing, but I'm currently tapped out. And I reset by starting at a lower weight and a higher rep scheme, and then I work my way back up in that weight and down in reps. And then the most of the time I get past the previous strength plateau, I tweak the exercises all the time to make them harder or more productive when I reach a strength plateau, but I want to keep that version of exercise. It might be the grip, it might be a 2 to 4 second pause in the hole, it might be a rest pause this time, rather than a straight set like the last time. It might be slightly different angle. How do you guys think I come upon doing all these weird exercises I've done, like rack chins and things like incline reverse grip presses for triceps? It was because I was tapped out on the flat reverse grip tricep press, but I loved the exercise, the results that exercise gave me, so I went to the incline version with a much higher rep scheme. Yeah, I mean, my training partner and I should get him on here sometime and talk about it, but it was a couple of years ago. I was just getting beat up. I was still trying to train heavy, and in my mid-40s, I was still trying to do those 6 to 8 reps on things and progressively get stronger on stuff, and I just kept getting hurt and these little nagging injuries and muscle tears. My joints were beat up. So I pulled back. I increased the reps, and I tightened up my form. I made my form a lot slower, and I went back through and just completely reinvented everything. I think that's what he's talking about here. All right, continuing on. One of the very best things a bodybuilder can ever do for himself is to travel to another gym after he feels he has gotten tapped out at his current gym. Every piece of equipment will have different perks, different angles, different mechanical positions, new machines, new strength plateaus to conquer. I am going to tell you how important it is that you train progressively, first of all, and second of all, that you change the mechanical positioning if you can when you reach a strength plateau. If every single one of you reading this right now was on a deserted island with a solitary fixed shoulder press machine on a 200-pound stack, and you trained on that machine in strict form until you press 200-pound stack for 30 reps over time, you will at that point make minimal gains in shoulder muscle mass going further. Why? Because you're limited in load. You cannot go further than 200 pounds weight stack because that's all you have, and you have already accomplished it for 30 reps. Secondly, you cannot change the mechanical positioning of that machine, so you're done. That is how important mechanical positions and even more so progressive training is. But the aforementioned dummy bodybuilders cannot figure out that simple concept for some reason. They only think in the small box and in a straight line. This is not that hard, guys. The very day you conquer every viable piece of machinery that is worthy in mechanical positions that you find are safe and allow progressive training in both your gym and surrounding gyms with a lot of weight in the 12 to 20 rep range, and just the road you took to get there, eating, supplements, wraps, enhanced, will be the day that you are so massive in size that you won't even be reading this. You've already accomplished what you set out to do. I mean, everything in bodybuilding and life is progressive to a certain degree. If you just do the same shit every day, when that comes to food, everything, the supplements, everything progresses as you get bigger. But you try to eke the most out of what you can. With the training, I do think you need to modulate the training as you get older, and Dante's not denying that. And in here for me. I'm using more volume. I've been playing around. That's another variable I've been playing around with. I don't know what Dante's thoughts on this. I should probably ask him about it sometime, but I've been playing around with progressing volume. So it's still progressive overload in my book. So like for me on a 6-week training block, I will start off with a weight. I will increase the volume. I will add more sets until I hit what I consider a maximum recoverable volume. And then I push the weights up. And I rinse, wash, and repeat. And I'll keep pushing the weights up, keep pushing the weights up. And then I get to a point where I can't progress any further on that given exercise. And I move on to something else. That's, like I said, the reason I say the shoulder press is because it was relevant. We just tapped that one out. There's no more we can do with the hammer strength shoulder press machine. It's tapped out. I'm at the limit of what I can handle. It has 150 pounds on the stack. I can blast out 15 to 20 reps with that, no problem. It's lost its use in my arsenal, so I've moved on, mastered that one. I've moved on to another exercise now. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Take care. For coaching or consultations, head over to www.anabolicbodybuilding.com to book your spot today. I can help you with optimizing hormones, fat loss, muscle gain, physique, athletic performance, nutrition, and health. For more information, shoot me an email at bigp3rd@gmail.com.